Hello and welcome to the 9th video in this series, making Space Invaders using HTML and JavaScript. So this video then we're going to get some bullets firing from our player ship. There's going to be a bit of copy and paste of the code in this video to not keep it too long. There's quite a bit of stuff you've seen already, so it's not really learning. The main part of this will be dealing with the bullets themselves and the collection. In advance, and you've got the code of course on GitHub, inside assets I've added a lasers folder with the nice blue laser here on the screen, the PNG. In defs.js, I've added in the picture of the laser PNG, so the actual path to it in here, so we can load it in our assets and get the size of the sprite. I've added into game settings, 3 parameters in here, 3 constants, so the speed our bullet's going to travel, the life, which is 4 seconds, and our fire rate, which will be 1 bullet a second. In fact, I'll make that 1 bullet every 2 seconds for later. We'll speed it up, of course, towards the end of the game, but at the end of the series, but for now 2 seconds is okay, because we're not actually going to hit anything at the moment. And then in Game Manager itself, there's a new property here called bullets, which will contain all of our bullets, and at the moment it's undefined. I've added a new JavaScript file which is empty. It's called bullet.js, and I've added a link to that inside index.html, so js/bullet.js, and we're ready to start creating our bullets. So the way we do this is with 2 classes. One of the classes will be the bullet itself, which will extend sprite, just as our player does. And the other one then will be something called a bullet collection, and that will then handle all of the bullets themselves. And the good news is it's actually relatively straightforward. So first of all, let's make the bullet class itself. And it's very, very similar to the player. Extend sprite. So we'll have a constructor then, and in this constructor we'll set up a couple of parameters for the bullet itself. And we'll also then call the super, so the constructor on the sprite, to set up the div name, the position, the file, and all that kind of stuff. We've seen that before with the player. What we do then is we set up the life that the bullet has, which is in the game settings. It's 4,000 milliseconds or 4 seconds. Add it to the board. I might actually remove that and put that here. So, oops, hang on. Of course, that went wrong. Put that here. Dead, true or false. So is the bullet dead or not? So if it hits an enemy, it dies, and if it doesn't last, if it goes longer than its 4 seconds, it also dies. And then we'll add our bullet to the board directly when we construct it. What we'll do then, I explained in the last video, I think that we've made this tick function, and this is where we'll update the position of all our enemies and stuff like that on the game as we go at around 60 frames a second. The bullets are one of the things that we will update, so we're going to call an update function then, or rather define an update function. And in this, the first thing we'll do is calculate for the delta time, the dt, how much the increment is that we can move in pixels. So that'll be our delta time multiplied by our bullet speed, and then call our sprite increment position function so that we can increment ourselves in the minus y direction of our ink. So the bullets in this game only travel in one direction, that's upwards on the screen, that's then minus y direction. X will always be 0. Of course, you could make some additions or changes to the game and fire bullets in any direction you liked. In this case, they're doing this. One thing we do need to do is decrease the life. Remember, it's got 4,000 milliseconds to live, which is more than enough to fly across the screen. And what we do want to say is that if it's no longer got any life, so this.life is less than 0, then basically commit suicide. So this.kill me. And kill me we haven't defined yet. That's exactly what we're going to do now. And this is simply going to set dead is true, and then call the sprite class remove from board function to get jQuery then to take the sprite off the board. I'll just go into sprite here. You remember we have remove from board here, which tells jQuery to remove this particular sprite. That's all we need to do for our bullet sprites. It doesn't really do anything else. It gets put on the board, set moving, and then collides into things, and those things will deal with that rather than the bullet itself. So let's move on to our second class then, and that's the actual collection of bullets. So this will be called bullet collection. We'll have a constructor, and in the constructor we'll take a reference to the actual player. Now we could use GameManager.player here, but there may be other cases if you extend the game where you want to fire bullets or fire stuff from other things. So you'll need a reference to what's doing the firing, because we'll use that reference to position where the actual bullet div originates on the screen. And then I'm going to add some properties to our bullet class. So the first one is a list. It's a list of all the bullets, so all of our bullet classes will be in this list. the time since we added one, because we've got this bullet frequency, whatever it was called, I can't remember exactly, let's have a look, a bullet fire rate. So this will be used with the bullet fire rate to detect whether we need to add a new one. Keep a reference to the player, and also keep account of the number of bullets we've added, because we'll use this number to uniquely identify each of the divs that our bullets are added onto. The next thing I want to do is a reset function. And in this reset function, I'm going to loop through all of my bullets and remove them from the board. So this reset function will typically be called when we've got game over, we've died, or all the enemies have passed, and then we press space to restart or whatever. Reset will be called then just to clean everything up. That means remove all the bullets from the board that might be remaining, and then also we've already got the player reference, but let's just clear out all of the bullets objects we made until now from our memory. Last added is 0, total bullets is 0, and we're ready from afresh to start again. Now the main meat of the bullet collection class then is going to be in its update function, not with a Z but with a T. And in this function then, this is the function that will be called from main.js with the calculated dt. So what was the elapsed time since the last update we did? And what we're going to do here is we're going to go in reverse through the list of our bullets and update each of them if they're not dead. If they are dead, we're going to remove them from the list bullets array, which is why we're going in reverse order through the array. Because when you remove an array, you just use something called splice, and the array will be redone without the thing you want to taken out. And the problem with that is if you loop in a classic way through an array, like we do here, starting at the first index 0 and going up, so let's say we've got 10 bullets, so we would have index 0 to 9. If we remove through that loop the bullet at index 5, then the bullets at index 6, 7, 8 and 9 will now have indexes 5, 6, 7 and 8, and our loop will go up to 9, and then we'll run out of bounds from the array, and funny things can happen, particularly in JavaScript. So we want to avoid that, so we'll go the other way through the array from the end back to the start, and then we'll remove them as we need to. So this reverse loop looks like this. And then we can say, is our bullet dead? If it is, then let's use splice to remove it. And with splice in JavaScript, you simply say, at what index do you want to start removing objects or items in the list, and how many do you want to remove? So we want to start at index I, and we want to remove 1. Otherwise, we'll update our bullet. The next thing to do is increment the time since we last added a bullet, but do that outside the for loop. Let's be careful here. And now we need to detect whether we need to add a new bullet to the game. So here we'll be looking to see, first of all, you remember we haven't used it on the player yet, but we've got a hit flashing state here. That's when the player's been hit by an enemy and he's flashing, which means no bullets should come out and no enemies can hit the player. So we want to only add a new bullet if the player is no longer flashing. So he's not in that particular state. And we also want to add it when last added is greater than our fire rate. If those conditions are true, then we can add a new bullet. So we'll ask so if this condition is true, we're ready to add a new bullet. We'll set last added to 0, and now we can create our new bullet. And the only slightly tricky thing in this is we need to specify the position. Now the position of our bullet will be at the top of our sprite, which is just our player sprite, which is our player.position.y. But it won't be at the X, which remember is the top left of the sprite. We want it in the middle, so it'll be at the X plus the width of our player divided by 2, and that will put the bullet in the middle of our ship at the top of the sprite. So assuming all these conditions are true, we're ready to add to our bullets list. So this dot list bullets dot push, and I'll make some space, a new bullet, and then we can add in the arguments. The first one is going to be the div, and the div will be bullet underscore and then the number we have so far. The next one will be the assets, which comes from the game manager, much like we did with the player. And the last argument then is the, as I said, the player position, where we make a new point where we have the player position x plus its width divided by 2 plus the position y. So a bit of code in there, hopefully it makes some kind of sense, just setting up the bullet with its div name and stuff. And the last thing we need to do then is increment the total number of bullets by 1 so that we've got a new div name next time round for adding one. And that should be all we need to do really to manage our bullets. We've got our bullet class and our bullet collection, and now we can go into main.js and set all of this up properly. First thing I want to do is the init function. I want to change the name to reset game because it's going to be more of a reset game function. And just down in init here, change that as well. And I'm going to make a new function called above reset player called reset bullets. And in this function, I'm going to say if the game manager bullets have not yet been are not undefined, then just reset the current collection. Otherwise, make a brand new bullet collection, sending in the game manager.player as reference. The last thing we need to do then is call reset bullets, and we'll do that after resetting the player so that we've definitely got a player object actually to be referenced when we call reset bullets and send in the game manager.player. And last but not least, we need to go up inside tick and we need to update our bullets collection. And that should be, I'm wondering what errors I've made during this because I haven't looked yet, but that should be enough to have us firing our bullets on the screen. So let's have a look. And here I can see we have bullets on the screen. I'm just going to go to elements and have a look at whether the divs are being added and removed as needed. And indeed, we can see bullet 4, bullet 5 in the divs, bullet 5, bullet 6, bullet 6, bullet 7. So the divs are also being removed as the bullets go off screen. And you can see quite clearly that we've got 9, 10, div 11, div 12 with the positions being updated here as well. So we've got bullets being fired nicely then on the screen. I can go back to defs.js and just quickly put the fire rate to something more like what we'll have towards the real game and just refresh, and now you can see we've got lots and lots of bullets firing on the screen. That's not what we want now because it will become irritating, but we can change it to that certainly later on. I'll put it back to 2 seconds for now. Okay, that's it then for this video. Hopefully it wasn't too long and there's a bit of copy and paste, but it should have made some sense. You can see hopefully the advantage of having our sprite class that we extend from. And this way we're managing the collection of bullets. We're actually going to manage the collection of enemies also in a very, very similar way. The difference is they'll have to follow waypoints and things, so there's a little bit more code to add in for the enemies. But we've made some good progress now. We've got bullets being fired on the screen. We can move our player around, and now we need to start thinking about the enemy. So thanks very much for watching this video. Comments, questions welcome as always, and see you in the next one.